Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank Wayne for the opening prayer and starting us off in a good way this evening. I also want to start by thanking Laurie Bonfoy and Misty Smoker for honoring me with their nominations. It is a privilege to be nominated to run for council and for members to show their confidence in me. As the other council members and some of the staff know, I'm more of a doer. I do a lot of the work in the background for Zagime. And what I decided to do was give you a little bit of an idea of the work that I've accomplished, especially in this last term for Zagime. It was actually a few days ago that a relative of mine had asked me about the work that I've done for Zagime. And he reminded me that I need to speak about these things, since there may be some of you that may not know what I've done. So my current council mandate is Chair of Treasury Board. And this responsibility includes budgeting, auditing, policy review, development, and other developments, among other things. So two of the major accomplishments in outside of the things that I've listed is that the work that I've done on the personnel policy and manual, which was approved this past year. The previous one was very outdated, very old, and didn't accommodate the needs of our staff. It was a major step in modernizing how staffing and personnel issues are addressed and managed. The second major piece of work was the drafting of our Financial Administration Act. And many of you know that we just went through a successful vote to approve the Financial Administration Act. And this major piece of law for Zagime is going to assist us as we move forward in the changing environment, both business-wise and financially, with regard to the requirements of moving into a modern type of financial system, which has been needed for quite a while. With respect to the FAA, I've also recently been working with the lawyer from the First Nations Financial Management Board. We have to meet requirements for Zagime to enter into a new 10-year grant agreement with Canada. That would be the only way that we'd be able to enter into a 10-year grant agreement, is we're to ensure that we have an act that outlines a lot of the stricter financial requirements that Zagime will need. But the 10-year grant will also provide a lot more stability and certainty in terms of the types of budgeting that we're going to be receiving from Canada. As the role of Treasury Board, the FAA also is changing my role in the role of Treasury Board as well too. Under the current system, which is a quite old system, the Treasury Board was more of a management board, which was really, meeting twice a week, reviewing policies and so forth. So under the FAA, the Treasury Board is actually an audit and finance committee that is more of an oversight board. So there's transitions internally among the Treasury Board itself, moving to a new type of working style, but also transitions that need to be undertaken with our finance office in terms of setting up much, more modern systems to not only to ensure that the work we do internally is appropriate, but also that we have supports for the developments that are taking place in our westlands and other areas. The other thing I wanted to speak to you about was in my previous life, I guess, I worked for over 20 years with the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations. And in those roles that I worked at, I worked as the Director of Lands, also as the Executive Director of Education. And I also worked in the Chief of Staff's office, where I was the Director of Policy Development and Research. But also, one of my roles at the FSIN was working in the specific claims area, which gave me a lot of insight and understanding about the specific claims process. And one of the areas that I've been working on in assisting Zagime is to pursue all of our claims, ensuring that they're in the process of being accepted or being researched and so forth. And one of the areas that I worked quite heavily on was the lead for was the ratification of our treaty land entitlement settlement, which many of you will probably remember that we ratified a few years ago. Along with that, I was the lead person because we didn't have a specific claims or claims personnel person in the office. I also worked on the agricultural benefits claims, or as some of you may know it as cows and plows claim. So that takes quite a lot of work in terms of reading all of the legal and historical documents, reading them over and over to make sure that what is covered in the legal argument is and put forward to Canada outlines the scope of what the claim is all about. So as you know, you've probably all heard, it was accepted for negotiations, and we're waiting for Canada to get back to us in terms of actually getting into the negotiations. So I'm quite proud of the work that I was able to accomplish there. Some of you may not know of the other claims that are actually with Canada or in the process of being researched. The other claim that was submitted to Canada, which I took the lead on as well too, in doing the research and working with the researchers and legal counsel, is our land and lease mismanagement claim. And this claim is to do with the mismanagement of our lands at the Crooked Lake. Historically, there were non-First Nations people that were squatting at the lake, tearing down brush, clearing areas and so forth. And our ancestors, the old people, had asked Indian Affairs, the Indian agent, to get these squatters off the land. But the Indian agent, listening to the squatters who were non-First Nations people, allowed them to stay on the land without collecting any rent. So this claim deals with the mismanagement over from about 1910 to about 1990. So it's a fairly long claim that has been submitted to Canada, and they're in the process of reviewing it, and I'm sure that they're going to have to be forced to accept that claim as well too. In addition to that, we have actually 2 more claims that are being researched right now. The other one is the trust mismanagement claim, where the Department of Indian Affairs, as it was called then, mismanaged all of the funds that they received from sale of land or sale of produce or whatever. And historically, that funding used to have to be sent to Ottawa, where they would keep it in a trust account. Well, over the years, we've documented that the department mismanaged the trust account. And so they were paying for things that they shouldn't have been paying for with our money. So that claim as well too is with Indian Affairs. I also wanted to talk to you about some of the other, I guess, treaty inherent rights work that I've been doing. We've been heavily involved on the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. We have a major submission that we provided to Canada to give them a document that states our rights and the positions that we take on what kind of relationship they should have with us. So I wanted to thank all of you for listening. I see that my time is over, but I want to thank you very much for listening, and I hope I look forward to being able to continue the work that I've been doing these last 4 years. Miigwech.